Hello, everybody. Welcome to Lesson 17. We're going to be talking about the appropriate measures of data today. If you have your math workbook, we're going to be on pages 846. If you don't have it, that's all right. Go ahead and take notes in your interactive math notebook on 63 and 64. Take your time throughout this lesson, pause it, and write down everything that you need to. This is going to really set you up in the next couple of lessons leading to be really successful when we really start talking about statistics and how to use and what we do with the data that we collect. All right, let's get started. Today's learning objective is to choose an appropriate measure of central tendency. So what that means is we're going to decide when do we go and find mean, median, or mode, because not always do we need to find all three. Throughout this lesson today, pause the video and take notes along with me so you have more time. So let's get started. When is it that we find mean? We find the mean of data when the data has no extreme values. We're talking about the outliers here. So if there's no outliers or extreme values, finding the mean would be the best way to represent this data. Okay, when do we find median? Median has two things that you're going to look for. One, that the data has extreme values. And two, there are no big gaps in the middle of the data. So even though you have outliers, you don't want the central part of your data or the middle part of your data to have these large numerical gaps in between. They want to all be fairly close together. That's when you would find the median. Next, we have the mode. We look for mode in data that has many repeated numbers. So if you're looking at a set of data and there's no repeating numbers, you're not going to be looking for mode to represent it. But if you have many repeating numbers, then the mode would be the best way to represent the central tendencies. Okay, let's take a look at our first example. So the table here shows the number of medals won by the U.S., which measure of center best represents this data. Then find the measure of center. All right, so let's decide which measure of center we should use. Thinking back to what we just took notes on. First, does the data have any extreme values? Do you see any major outliers? No, that's correct. There are no outliers. So that means that the median would not be a good choice. Okay, what about the mode? Is there any data that's being represented or have many pieces that are represented? No, there's no data with many repeated numbers. So we can leave out the mode, which means the mean is going to be our best choice. Okay, take this note down of why we're choosing to find the mean of the data. Next, pause the video and also find the mean of the data. So remember, to find the mean of the data, we're going to add all of the data values together. So we have 112, 101, 97, 103, and 110. All of this comes out to 523. What was the next step in finding the mean? Good. We're supposed to divide by how many data sets there are. So looking at our list, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So all of these, once added together, need to be divided by 5. So we have 523 divided by 5. Go ahead and pause the video and complete your mean. All right, so check your answer. You should have come up with that the mean number of medals won is 104 3/5 medals. If you made a mistake, pause the video, find where you went wrong. If you do not understand, please see us during our office hours. All right, let's take a look at the next problem. All right, so for example 2, the table shows the water temperature over several days. Which measure of center best represents the data? Then find the measure of center. Pause the video, and I want you to figure out which one, mean, median, or mode, would best be represented to find the center of this data. Unpause the video when you have your answer. Now that you've had a chance to think about it, what do you think? Does the data have any extreme values? It does not. So that takes the median out. How about any repeated numbers? There are some repeated numbers there. So the mode is going to be our best choice. So for this one, the data set, because it has no extreme values, and there's a repeated number 4 times, it's not just twice, but 4 times, the mode, 82 degrees, is going to be the measure of center that best represents this data. Please pause the video, make sure you have this written down before we move on to the next one. All right, it is your turn. The next problem says that the prices of several DVDs are $22.50, $21.95, $25, $21.95, $19.95, $21.95, and $21.50. Which measure of center best represents the data? Justify your selection, and then also find the measure of the center. Pause the video and come back when you have your complete answer. Welcome back. So did you go through those basic questions? Do you have any extreme values? Do you have repeating numbers? What did you choose to be the best way to measure the center? Was it the mean, median, or mode? If you'd said that because there are many repeated prices of $21.95, that the measure of center that would best represent this data would be the mode. All right, let's move on to another topic. A few times now, we've mentioned the words extreme values or outliers. So outliers, I want to be more specific with. Sometimes data that contains outliers are when the majority of the data set is very different. So the outlier can affect the measure of center. So let's look at this example number 3 here. So identify the outlier in the data set. So looking at these numbers, we have 35, 30, 50, 200, 30, 70, and 20. Now, 35, 20, 70 even are all fairly close together, but obviously this 200 stands out. So compared to the other values, 200 years is extremely high. So that's when we would consider it to be an outlier. Please pause the video and take note of what an outlier is, and also write down the example. What we're going to do now is we're going to look at how an outlier affects the data. So we're going to look back at this data here, and I'm going to show you what the mean, median, and mode would be with and without this outlier of 200, and see how it affects it. So let's take a look at the first part. So if I were to look at the with the outlier, so this is including that 200. So we've added all the numbers together and then also divided by 7. That means that the mean is going to be approximately 62. So an average age of 62. The median, or the center number, is going to be 35, and the mode, the number that shows up most often, is going to be 30. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to look at without the outlier, without that 200 in there. What do you think is going to happen to this information? Well, let's take a look. The mean, once added up, and now we're also dividing by 6 because there is one less data point, that 200 we took out, comes out to an average age of 39. The median, or the center number, is 32.5, and the mode is at 30. So really, what does this tell us, or what does this mean? the mean lifespan decreased. So if we take 62 minus the 39, would be 23 years. The median lifespan also decreased. So 35 to 32.5, which is a decrease of 2.5 years. And the mode did not change at all. So taking that outlier out both decreased the mean and the median of this set of data. Take a minute, pause the video, and write down this information. All right, let's bring everything together that we've talked about. The table on the right here shows required temperatures for different recipes, so cooking temperatures in degrees Fahrenheit. What I want you to do is A, identify the outlier, if there is any, in the data set. B, determine the outlier, how it affects the mean, median, and mode. So what that means is you need to find the mean, median, mode with the outlier, and then find the mean, median, mode without the outlier. And then lastly, for C, you're going to tell which measure of center best describes the data. So with or without the outlier, and justify your selection. So pause the video, work through A, B, and C, and then come back to see if you got them correct, and we'll discuss each answer separately. All right, let's take a look at our outlier. So if we're looking through all of the data here, it's pretty obvious here that 175 degrees is quite different than the rest. So 175 degrees is going to be your outlier. Now, if you found your mean, median, and mode, let's start with out. Let's do WO, meaning without the outlier. So without the outlier, your mean came out to about 364.3 degrees. Your median came out to 350 degrees. And the mode came out to also 350 degrees. Again, this is without your outlier. Now, with your outlier, this is with our outlier, the mean came out to about 340 6/10 of a degree. Your median came out to 350 degrees. And your mode came out to also 350 degrees. All right, so part C says which measure of center best describes the data with and without the outlier, and you're supposed to justify your selection. So you should have decided that your median and your mode, median and mode, are best choices. Now, why is this? The outlier really affects the mean. So the mean temperature is misleading because of it. And the median temperature and the mode temperature is the best data because with and without that outlier, either way. So we're going to also write mean is not the best choice. Due to the outlier. It makes it misleading. All right, pause the video, fill in your notes, and make sure that you understand each part of this. If you have questions, do please see us during our office hours. Now it's your time for practice. Just as we've been practicing throughout the lesson, for your homework, you will follow 3 parts. First, you'll find the measure of the center that best represents the data. So what that means is you're going to decide which choice, mean, median, or mode, would be the best choice to choose to represent the data. Second, so that's the first part. Second, you're going to justify your selection. So what that means is you're going to say, oh, I chose the median because it has extreme values. And then thirdly, you'll find the measure of center. So you'll say what the median actually is of that data. You have 4 problems to work on. Once you complete, please go ahead and submit your answers into Canvas. If you have any questions, please see us during our office hours, and pause the video to copy down and use these for your homework now. Good luck, everybody.